And welcome to the Striped Onion Show, where we peel them back good. And now to our host, the man with the plan, Sergeant Peel.
Hey, welcome back, friends. SOSers, listen, I'm glad you're tuning in today because we got a really good guest today. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Jesse Bragg. He's from right here in the Augusta, Georgia area. Man, his story is so impactful, it's so heartfelt, and truly a testament of what some first responders do go through. So I can't wait for y'all to hear this story. But first, share it, baby. Share, tag us, whatever you got to do. Put it in social media. Share it on your platforms. Get the word out there. That's all I ask. It doesn't do anything for us. We don't care about us. It's what it does for everyone else. The other first responders, the families that listen to this show. Y'all do me a favor. Share it. That's all I ask. In the meantime, sit back and enjoy this conversation that we have with Jesse. All right, y'all. Let me tell you, I got a buddy of mine. This is good old Jesse Bragg. He's from right here in the Augusta, Georgia area. He's a firefighter. He's an EMT. He's beyond that. He's larger than life, I like to say sometimes. He's a good guy. We've known each other for a few years. We're good friends. We work in the CISM world together. But Jesse's story is different, and he's one of the ones I wanted on this show on the early. A couple of times we've tried to line him up, and it didn't work. But enough with me. Jesse, Bo, how you doing today?
I'm having an excellent day, and it's beautiful out here. And Augusta, we're actually getting some sunshine, and I'm grateful for that after all the Seattle weather we've been having.
Yeah, no kidding. Let me guess. See, with the sun out, and it's probably still a little chilly out, yeah, but if I had to bet, you're not working today, you're working on the car?
Most likely, that'll be the prescription for the day. My mental health prescription for the day is to work on the car.
Hey, you're already taking this conversation down the road I wanted it to go down. So I'm going to tell you, Jesse's, his passion is truly with first responders, and I like to say his escape mechanism, if you will, or his personal diagnosis for CISM treatment or PTSD treatment is drift cars. Jesse is a drift car driver, and he loves playing with cars. Jesse, I mean, tell me how many you've been doing it now for, really doing it solid for about a year now, right?
Oh, well, actually, really a lot longer than that. As we get into my story, maybe I'll tell you a little bit about how things went, but I've actually been drifting for the past 12 years. I just had a 10-year hiatus, and I was racing before that since about 2005.
Well, we're gonna make sure we get some pictures put up for sure, because I've seen some pictures of his drifting and some videos, and I'm impressed. I didn't know firefighters could actually drive like that. I thought it was just the cops.
I may or may not have drifted an ambulance and a tanker once or twice.
But it wasn't on purpose.
Oh, of course not. Not at all.
I'm sure.
Are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording. You're in trouble now.
Lord.
No, we know it's all in serious. We all have our ups and downs at work. So it's all fun in this grand scheme of things. Jesse, I want you to take a minute. Tell us about you. Tell us how you got involved with the CISM community. Tell us about your story. I mean, there's a pretty heartfelt truth to our jobs, and you've got one. So take the mic, man. Tell us about it.
Sure. I guess a little bit about myself. I'm pretty much from the CSRA around Augusta, for those of you who we call it the Central Savannah River area. I've been raised here for most of my life, and I just, I grew up kind of tough. I saw some stuff that you probably shouldn't see whenever you're growing up, and it made me feel very different and shameful. And so I carried a lot of that, and I felt very different for most of my life. And that caused me to adopt some maladaptive coping mechanisms, as they say in psychology speak. And I went down kind of a dark road. And through that pain and suffering, that was on that dark road. I came out on the other side of it, surviving, thank God, and became a first responder in 2007 as a firefighter and EMT for Georgia. It's not something I ever planned on doing. Since about the age of 5, I had given up the idea of being a firefighter, but it's not something I ever planned on doing. But I feel like God really put it an opportunity in my life. I mean, I was just looking for a job, and some friends of mine that I met through car stuff, actually, which has always been a passion of mine, told me that there was a local fire department that was hiring, and they would take me on and train me, and could give me a good life. And I was really turning things around, and really changing the way that I was living life. And I just said, you know what, let's try this. I mean, how bad could it be? And I came to love it. I came to love being a firefighter and an EMS personnel, which is really what the bulk of my job was. It's probably 95% being an EMT doing EMS stuff on the ambulance, just because we have so few fire calls nowadays. But I loved every element of the job, and I loved the public service aspect, interacting with the public. And as I came through 14 years with the fire department, I have had a lot of ups and downs. I've had several traumatic incidents, as we'll call them, some big T stuff in my personal life as well as professional life. And it's been it was very difficult to deal with some of those big T's. And along the road, I sought out help. I tried to do it on my own to deal with the fallout, so to speak, of the big T's that were happening in my life. And I realized I couldn't do it alone. And people came alongside me and have guided me and walked through this journey with me and showed me how I can successfully live life on life's terms and not have to suffer through life like I used to do. And that, pay it forward is the big thing in my life now. I've had so many good people in my circle that have come alongside me. I now do my best to come alongside other people in their time of need, not only professionally, but especially on a personal level. And some may call it greedy and selfish, but it's because it fulfills me, and it really makes me feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose when I use my experience, my strength, and my hope of the past to help somebody else's future out, so that they can skip some of the dark roads that I traveled down and some of the hiccups and bumps that I've experienced. So, just meeting people where they're at is real important to me. And I do my best to just be non-judgmental and find the similarities between me and whoever I meet that is reaching out for help, and see what it is that they think I can do for them. And the peer support realm, I've been in it for about 14 years now. I've been in first responder peer support for about 4 or 5 years. And, it's just something that I needed and couldn't find. And I did not know that it existed. All the resources that are available nowadays, and even back whenever I was suffering with post-traumatic stress disorder and major anxiety and depression and suicidality, and being an active alcoholic and stuff like that. I didn't know that there were resources available to me. So now I'm kind of I'm an education awareness type of person. I like to let people know that there is hope. And if you're tired of living the way that you're living and suffering, there's a way out. And there's so many resources to help you. And there's people who have been through this before and they're still here. And not only are they living, but they are thriving. And in the midst of that struggle, they have quit struggling and have found something to hold on to, and it gets them through the day. And that's what I wanted. So I find people like that and I have them as mentors. And Sarge, I'm real happy to know you because you've been a mentor for me. And I guess that's in a nutshell where I'm at today.
Well, you said one thing a few minutes ago. You talked about how you felt kind of selfish. Let me tell you, and I'm not speaking just for him. It's me. It's many other people that work in this realm. It's not selfish because of most of the time when we pay it forward in this area, we're paying it forward just for the fact that it is therapeutic to us. It's helpful for us to help someone else as part of our nature of our job type thing. So I say that, but two, man, I'm telling you, your story is impactful. You called me a mentor to you. It's a two-way street. You're a mentor to me, man. I'm sorry. You're just as much a mentor to me as you say I am to you. So I appreciate the kind words there, but just know that
I do too. I do too. And I think one of the big things that my experience has taught me is that you can do things alone if you want to. That's your choice. But that's like being in the weather we've been having recently. It's cold and it's rainy and it's wet and it's lonely, man. I'd rather be out in the sunshine with the people, and I'd rather be a part of the world instead of a part from the world. And I choose to have people in my life that are working on the solution and want to be a part of the world, and not keep everything selfishly for themselves. So like I said, some people might see it as selfish, but self-care is never selfish. I've learned.
Absolutely. It is never selfish. You're right. You're 100%. I will agree with you. And if we clicked on any of the past episodes, they're going to say the same thing. We do got to take care of ourselves. We got to find our outlets. We got to find our things. I mean, your cars and your cigars. That's you. We know it. That's your outlet. Your cars and your cigar. Kind of like Eric Skidmore. You and Eric are just. He loves his cigars. You got Andy Carey.
Oh
He
man,
loves his cars. I mean, hey.
you're just mentioning names that have impacted me heavily, and just more people that we've come to know and love who are excellent mentors to us. And it's one thing about both of those gentlemen that you said that's really important that I look up to and I would like to emulate is they give themselves freely, 100%. And I've seen them go into a situation and they don't even know what it's going to require of them, but they go in with the willingness to do the job, whatever it takes. And I'm talking about mainly peer support. I obviously don't know them really professionally, but in the peer support realm, they are just willing. They practice ultimate willingness, and that is a product of the humility that I see in those men. And I admire it greatly, and really I wish to be like that.
Yeah, I think we all strive that. I really do. So tell me this: your story is you still hadn't totally hit the nail on the head. Tell us, uh, at some point in your life, you felt like you hit a brick wall. And I know a little bit too much about your story, and I'm trying not to tell it. I want you to tell it. Tell the people that don't know you. How did you really get involved? What pushed you down that path?
Well, for one thing, I used to have a real dependency on chemicals, and I was not a public servant. I was the person who the public servants were trying to find and looking out for. And I was somebody who you wouldn't trust or wouldn't want to be around at one point in my life. And I wasn't dependable. I didn't have good relationships with my family. They had degraded because of neglect and me stealing time from them. I should have been spending time with them, but I don't think anybody is a redeemable piece of crap. but a lot of times we feel that way. And for a long time, I felt that way. So I got to a point of desperation and decided to do something about that at the age of 21. And I entered a spiritual program, a 12-step program of recovery where people teach others and follow spiritual principles that allow them to live life on life's terms. And because of the principles of that program, I was able to, like I said, have the open-mindedness to try first responder work. And along that road, life kept happening. Whenever I was a kid, it turns my father was a firefighter, a volunteer with the Marine Rescue Squadron at Tybee Island, Georgia, which was like an auxiliary Coast Guard unit. And they would go out in the middle of the night, and they knew the back rivers and the marshes and stuff like that really well, like the back of their hand. And they would find people who were maydaying for help or never came back to port or dock, and they would go search for them. And he was into service himself. And he also was a volunteer firefighter. And I remember that pager going off in the late 80s and the early 90s. And he would have to go, and he would have to go at a moment's notice. He was willing and ready to. We lived a block away from the fire station on Tybee. And he had a lot of demons, and he succumbed to them and fell away from service, and he let those things overtake him. And it was tough to be there. It was so tough that my brain compartmentalized a lot of my experiences as a child and locked them away. Whenever I started at the fire department, I didn't even remember that my dad was a volunteer firefighter. Whenever I was a kid, I didn't remember being at the spaghetti dinners on Friday nights once a month at the fire station. I didn't remember any of that stuff. I didn't remember till I saw pictures that we had the fire engine over on like my 4th or 5th or 6th birthday, and we were crawling all over it. All the kids were. And we were wearing the helmets and shooting the booster reel and stuff like that. I didn't remember any of that because the brain is amazing. It wants to protect you, but it's kind of indiscriminate when it comes to protecting you. It's like it's like a big ice cream scoop. You want, like, let's say you got butter pecan and you want the pecans out of it, but you got to take all the ice cream that comes with the pecans. So I want to get rid of, the brain wants to protect me from the little T's and the big T traumatic experiences, but instead it takes good memories too and locks them away. And I've been able to unpack a lot of that with some professional help that I sought when I found myself in crisis, both due to PTSD, doing work-related things, and also personal things. And I'm just on a spiritual journey of growth now, man. That's a mental health journey, an emotional journey. And during that, I've been honest with people who want to help me, like my doctor. And he was like, it's very obvious to me you have major anxiety. He said this to me 10 years ago. And he said, I'd like to help treat you for it and help you with it. And I've got a major in anxiety and a minor in depression, I like to say, in the mental health circles. I was very resistant to chemicals because of my history with abusing them. And I finally succumbed a few years later with the guidance of some really good people who came along me, like I've said, people in my circle, and decided to start experimenting under the care of a doctor with medications to see what could work for me to help me out, because I have a legitimate chemical imbalance. And that's been a long road, but I'm still medicated today, and successfully so. It has improved my life tremendously. And I'm so grateful for that doctor not pushing it on me, but offering it to me and caring enough to do what he could. So I've sought chemical help, healthy chemical help, with under the care of a doctor, like I said, and I'm treated with that today under the care of a counselor. I've had a couple counselors in my life, and I was never able to be honest with them until I entered the spiritual realm, and I was able to learn about honesty. And it's amazing whenever you tell a counselor what's really going on with you, they can actually really help you. Like there's no point in going to a counselor if you're going to answer every question with "I'm fine," which is effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. That's what FINE stands for. None of us are great,
I love
but
it.
we're often fine. So if somebody says fine, it's a red flag for me. I dig a little bit.
It ain't just a
But
red flag for you; it's a red flag for every other CISM team member because we always get
absolutely,
fine from
yeah,
another
I'm
first
good.
responder, and it's crap.
I'm
You know
good.
it's crap as well as I do.
So I see a licensed clinical therapist who practices EMDR. I know you've mentioned that before on the show. That's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. I was introduced to that technique as a way to treat acute trauma and cumulative trauma. It's a silver bullet for the people that are qualified for it and it works for. And I'm one of those people. It works tremendously well for me. I first experienced it. Let me back up. I started getting into peer support about 14 years ago with the recovery program that I'm a part of. And that's all about being a regular, just a normal person and letting other people know, normalizing the responses that we get to trauma. That's peer support at its core, is normalization and coming alongside people and letting them know that they're not alone. They don't have to do this by themselves. So I learned how to do that in another program. And then a friend came alongside me and said, you really ought to start doing this for your brothers and sisters in the first responder world. I think you could be very helpful and it could yield a lot for you personally. And so he took me to a PCIS, and you know who I'm talking about. That's Patrick Cullenden. He was on a couple episodes back, and
Yep. Mm-hmm.
like so many people, I got suckered into going to a PCIS by Patrick Cullenden, and they allowed me. I felt so privileged to be there with those men and women who were pouring out their hearts and were very vulnerable, and they allowed me to be there as an observer. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had so many excellent conversations with people outside of that while we were smoking cigarettes. I was smoking at the time, and I had so many good conversations over nicotine sticks that I just felt like I was already doing work in the first responder realm right then and there. And the process intrigued me and fascinated me. And I love PCIS, Post Critical Incident Seminar. It's incredible. For me, I tell people it's like a mental health buffet. And so I formally entered into first responder peer support very soon after that with an organization based out of North Augusta, South Carolina called Support One. And my buddy Pat was taking classes with them. And he said, you know what? All this training that they offer is free if you're a current or past volunteer or professional or even retired first responder or a spouse of a first responder. They offer free training for what we call critical incident stress management to become a peer supporter and help your brothers and sisters. And I was like, dude, that's exactly what I want to do, because nobody has, that I know in my circle at the time, understands what it is that I go through as a first responder. They know how it is to have relationship problems. They know how it is to have job problems, but they don't know what it's like to deal with the trauma that we experience as first responders, the life and death nature of our work, the life altering things that we see, experience, and feel. And I wanted somebody who would understand that. And so I wanted to, I love the quote, be the change you want to see in the world. I said, if I can't find it, I want to be it. And not to say that there aren't resources around. I just, like I said earlier, I was ignorant to them. I did not know of them. But I found this organization called Support One, and bam, I immediately had peers who were trained and knew how to talk to me, knew how to listen to me, and help me find solutions for the actual specific issues that I was dealing with as a first responder. And I was like, I got to get in on this. So I started consuming and going to every class I could. And my department was super behind me on this. They were giving me time off. They were covering my shifts. They were really great, and I'm super grateful for them supporting me in the way that they did. But I started classes in North Augusta, and I met up with Eric Skidmore, and he said, we're having classes up in Asheville. And I won't try to impersonate him right now, but I love Eric's voice. And so I followed him up to Asheville for a class that he was given on self-care for the first responder, for the trauma provider, and resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not understating this, or I'm not overselling this at all when I tell you that class changed my life. Around that time, I've been struggling to meditate for about 10 years, and suddenly something clicked, and I was able to start meditating. I experienced EMDR after hours with a clinician up there who was also a member of the class and a peer support supporter. And that mental health clinician did EMDR for me on a very traumatic call that I had been carrying around like a yoke for years. And suddenly it went from being on the Jumbotron in my brain, where every thought involving work, I had to wiggle around this big traumatic event that happened, to being like the television screens at a news center. It went from being the Jumbotron to just being another memory that I have, where I was kind of disassociated from it. So I experienced EMDR, was able to try yoga, acupuncture, breathing, breath work, breathing exercises, mindfulness techniques, all kinds of stuff. And that class changed my life. So I'm grateful that I was willing to go to any lengths to continue on this peer support road. And since then, I've been back, and it's a great group of people up in the Western North Carolina Peer Support Network. They host excellent classes.
It's in Montreat, right?
It's right around Montreat, yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
It's just north of Asheville, and Woodruff is where they had that class at a really swank public safety complex.
There you go. It's a beautiful area anyway, too. It's worth going up there.
Oh, the mountains are my happy place, man. I'm from the beach, but I should have been born in the mountains.
Well, the mountains typically have more windy roads for you to go drifting on, too. So
I've never drifted in the mountains, and I don't ever plan on it, but I do enjoy driving up there.
I know. I'm messing with you. All right.
So I guess today I am a member of the Support One peer group, peer team, or whatever you want to call it. We respond to agencies in need in the CSRA, which is, I don't even know how many square miles. It's a big area. And we respond to agencies who request our assistance dealing with traumatic incidences on the job. And most of peer support is done. There's debriefings and diffusings and crisis management briefings and all this stuff that you and I both know of. But we also both know that what you do with peer support is one-on-ones. That is where peer support really, that's where 90% of your peer support is going to be done. That's where the most heavy lifting is going to get done. That's where you're going to really reach people, and that's where you're going to get the most help as a peer. So I really enjoy doing one-on-ones.
That's where 90% of the impactful part of it really does come from, is that one-on-one stuff. You said that nail on the head right, let me tell you.
Exactly. Like you said, impactful, like where you're really going to make a difference. And as I got into the peer support realm, I wanted that to be available to my coworkers. So I started working towards building some policy and some peer support resources for my coworkers. I'm in a department that is about 130 strong, and we work 24-hour shifts, and a lot of times it's just you and your partner at a substation, and that's it. Like, there's not the big family firefighter atmosphere where there's a bunch of people on shift like you see on TV. It's just you and one other person for 24 hours running whatever comes through the radio. And that is amazing because you get to have such a intimate relationship with that one person. And the bigger fire stations, you're able to do that as well. But the peer support starts before the call ever goes out. It's developing those relationships day in and day out. And then it's doing informal debriefing yourselves on the way back from the hospital or on the way back when you're getting the trucks back in service and stuff like that. That is where the opportunity for peer support, as I see it, is missed because people do not have the skill set to utilize those opportunities. And so I wanted to educate my crew a little bit and give them some tools. And you'd have to talk to them to see how it's worked out for them. But I've seen a little bit of a change in the culture and in just a short amount of time where people are starting to reach out and they're willing to talk about some stuff that they would never have been willing to talk about before. And I'm not saying it's because I did anything. I'm just saying it's maybe we've given them permission to just be who they are and be where they are. And maybe nobody ever gave them permission, before, or maybe they never felt like they could. They just had to do the old suck it up buttercup. I'm a tough guy or gal. And, I put out fires and I do CPR on people and I save lives. I fight the Grim Reaper and all this bravado, machismo BS. We're people.
You're right.
We are
Human
people,
beings.
and it's big and important for me today to be a person among people. So I think I talked a lot there. I'm going to be quiet for a second. Let you asking the question.
I hate to tell you, I'm about to ask you another question. You got to talk some more. So
All right.
there's one thing that you haven't talked about, and you've can't tap dance. That's the best way. You've tap danced all over this topic and talked about it a little bit, especially with yourself. But a while back, you talked about Support One. A while back, they tried to put something together like a recovery group type thing, and you ended up in a partnership, so to say, with Support One. And my understanding that you created a group called ThinLine Recovery. Hey, tell me, what is ThinLine Recovery?
Well, ThinLine Recovery Group or ThinLine Support Group, however you want to put it. So about 2.5 years ago, around the same time that I was going to that class, and it profoundly changed my life, there was a Zoom meeting, which nobody knew what Zoom was at the time, or at least I didn't. And I had to figure it all out. But I had the privilege and the luck of finding something on Facebook that said there was going to be a group of first responders meeting online from all across the country for peer support purposes. And I got on that Zoom call, and I met some amazing people that I still have relationships with today. And it was called the ThinLine Recovery Group, and it was hosted by a recovery center anyway, and it was for first responders only. And man, the conversations we had were amazing. It was something I was looking for, and I invited a couple friends locally that I knew to this Zoom call, and we just said, man, we got to do this more often. It still happens every Thursday at 8:00. There is a Zoom meeting that any first responder is welcome to join. Corrections, dispatch, fire, EMS, Leo, whatever. and it's a topic meeting sometimes it's a discussion meeting, sometimes it's a speaker meeting, but it's a really great resource. And I just straight up told the creator who started it, by the name of Mark Lamplew, I said, man, I'm going to totally plagiarize this and rip it off, and I'm going to do this locally. And I hope that y'all do it too. And so we started a local, I wouldn't call it a chapter or anything because it's not formalized at all, but we started meeting at Support One in North Augusta at the training center once a month for a in-person support group for first responders. And a lot of people have asked me, what do y'all do? Y'all tell war stories? And I was like, I mean, sometimes before or after the meeting, but that's just to vet yourself. Like, if you show up to a thin line meeting, it's because you're probably looking to help somebody or you're looking for help yourself, because there's something that you either understand you can't do by yourself, or you've come to the point where you're looking for help and are ready to accept it. And so Thin Line Support Group, we have anywhere from 5 to 25 people at the meetings. And the first thing out of everybody's mouth at the first meeting, or at the end of the first meeting, was, when are we doing this again? And I was just planning on doing it once a month if we could even pull that off with membership or whatever. And everybody's like, no, we got to do this every week. We got to do this every week. So we did it once a month for about 6 months until something else that you've talked about on the show, Valor Station, became a thing. And we were invited by the owners of Valor Station to come out and use their facility while they're fighting to become a mental health treatment facility for first responders exclusively. And they invited us to come out and utilize some space on that property and have a meeting there as often as we wanted to. So we now don't meet at Support One very often, which was an evening meeting, but we still do occasionally. But we meet every week for at least an hour from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock every Saturday at Support One. And all first responders are welcome. I would like to develop a support program for families of first responders. That's something I'm working on, but we're going on a year and a half strong of meetings, and we're able to offer them weekly now. And there's a great core group of people that do a lot of the work, and they show up on a consistent basis, and we're like a family, and we come from all different walks of life. And most of the people come in there and they're like, oh my gosh, I can breathe in here. Like, I can tell you what is really going on. I don't have to get graphic on you. I don't have to explain the smell of brains, or what it feels like to do CPR and break ribs, or what it's like to get the poo on you while you're trying to help somebody, or what it's like to be doing however fast you're going, responding to a call, and the anxiety you feel in the meantime before you get there, and what it feels like to have that kind of responsibility. We don't talk about all that stuff. It's understood with
I love it.
that room and that group of people. You don't have to establish that. It's already established. You can actually get to the meat of what are you dealing with. You know what I mean? And that's something
so
that we
cool.
can be unguarded around our peers. And that's just another element of peer support. So I'm very proud of my involvement with the Thin Line Group, and I'm grateful for what it has become. And I want people from all over the place to do it themselves in their own town. So we're always welcoming people from out of town and in the area. And I tell every single one of them, I'm like, I'll copy and paste and give you an email, and you can rip it off completely like I did. And you don't need to give credit to anybody, but please do this wherever you're from, because it's much needed.
I'm gonna tell you, it's a great thing that you're doing. It's a great thing. I'm glad it's got the traction. Nothing else. I'm glad it's got the traction, because stuff like that has to get some traction before it'll truly be accepted, and the word gets spread. And every time it gets spread, it's that much more impactful. So beautiful job, awesome work. If someone's
Thank you
listening
very much,
right
Chris.
now, oh yeah, if someone's listening right now, tell them how they could get information. I think Facebook has got a group. You've got a group on Facebook for it. Is that true?
I think we do. I'm not big on. How about this? In the show notes, you can put my number. And if somebody wants to call me and ask me questions about it, if they're in Nebraska, I'll explain it to them and walk them through it. And if somebody's local and they want to come to our meeting, I'll give them directions to it.
Perfect. There
So
you
feel
go.
free to share my direct number.
Look in the notes of this show right now, and you're going to see a phone number in there, and that will take you straight to Jesse himself. He is one of those types that will answer the phone 24/7, just like the rest of us who are in the CISM world. We typically are answering the phone 24/7 when you call. So, Jesse, final words. I want you to drop some knowledge on us, or a favorite Bible verse, or a favorite, whatever you want to close us out with. Drop something positive on us.
Okay. It's so hard to pick one or two things, but I guess I'm going to misquote something for you. How about that? I don't know who this original quote was from, but I heard it from Brene Brown. And she said something to the effect of, you do not have to be fixed and whole and healed to help somebody else become fixed and whole and healed. So I would like everybody to know that if you're going through some stuff, that's okay. That's part of life. It may not be okay right now, but if you make it through it, you're going to have perspective that you're going to be able to share with other people, and that you are not alone. But one of the keys that I've found is to help other people, and that at the same time helps me. And you do not have to be all figured out and perfect and have all your stuff together before you reach out that hand to help somebody. In fact, I'll wager that if your feel as broken as I have in the past, if you reach your hand out to help somebody, you're not going to think about yourself and your situation and what you're going through for that short amount of time that you're intentionally, mindfully working for somebody else's benefit. And when you come back to your problems, they're going to be, let's just say you'll have a different perspective on them. They may not be reduced. They may not be better. They may not have taken care of themselves, but you're going to have a different perspective on it, because it's, just when I got everything under my thumb, and it's like a watch pot never boils type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I need to give it a minute and refocus and ground myself out, and then come back to these issues and situations I find myself in.
You almost
So,
close it like this. The whole process
you
is
know,
is a work of art. It's never finished. You don't finish. You always just strive to be finished. You always strive to be better. And by
right.
paying it forward the way you do, and the way I do, and the way we do all together in the CISM community, it's not just a healing process for us, but it's a way that we can show others how to heal and learn from our mistakes, so to say. So I love it. I appreciate it. Bo, you hit the nail on the head. I'm really thankful you jumped on the show today, and I'm looking forward to our listeners hearing this show and spreading the word. Because, guys, it's stories like Jesse's, it's stories like mine, and it's stories like the other guests that we've had on the show. If it impacts one person, that
That's
makes
right.
all the difference in the world, because that's the reason why we do this. Jesse, brother,
That's
thank you
right.
for being on the show. I love you, and I hope everybody stays safe on your end. Tell your lovely mother hello. I hadn't talked to her in a couple months, but tell her hello, and appreciate her for being the strong voice in your life as well. So,
Yeah, she loves the peer support family and what they've done, and the person that they've given her back that she lost for quite a while due to the job and personal stuff.
I
So
love it, man.
she's very grateful as well. And I'm very grateful that you had me on the show today. And like I said, uh, anybody feel free to reach out to me. I'll do whatever I can to assist you.
Thanks again for listening, friends. Let me tell you, we are greatly appreciative of your support of the SOS Show, the Striped Onion Show, and we are just as grateful for the friends we have inside our CISM network. Don't forget to share today's SOS call on your social media platforms. That is critical to getting the word out. And also make sure to leave some comments on whichever platform you listen to us on. We will respond to you. Visit our website at some point, thesosshow.com, and check it out. See what we have there. Sign up for the email notifications about shows and events we have coming up in the future. This is all about the first responders, about their support circles. So we want to make sure that it is impactful. And until next time, we hope everyone has a great day and a great week. Y'all stay safe out there, and God bless.